We have amongst us Ritesh Agarwal, a dear friend, a mentor, and a person who I always look forward to. I was reading a stat somewhere, and this year around 14 lakh students have given and appeared for the IIT exam this year. And I'm surprised only 10,000 seats are filled for IITs.
Yeah, I mean, IIT, the entire experience is quite a journey.
We have seen कि how suicide rate बढ़ रही है हर साल, IITs के लोग suicide कर रहे हैं.
I disagree with you already. I can't imagine how a startup could afford an ISB graduate like yourself, Aman, but
Hello friends, welcome to the first episode of Think Tank with Aman. Today, we have a guest amongst us. He has studied from institutions where all students aspire to study from. He has done his MBA from one of the best IIMs in the country, IIM Bangalore, and he's a double gold medalist from there. Third in the entire history of IIM Bangalore to do this. He's also studied from one of the best IITs in the country, IIT Bombay. He's a batch topper there. And now he's currently running his own tech startup, AppyCodes, sitting in Siliguri and managing several clients from US, UK, and Europe. We have amongst us Ritesh Agarwal, a dear friend, a mentor, and a person who I always look forward to. Welcome, Ritesh Bhaiya.
thank you, Aman. It's been a pleasure sitting with you in this chat. Thank you for inviting me.
It's been my first podcast, so I'm quite excited and nervous at the same time. We'll try to keep it as raw and conversational as possible so that the entire audience relates to it.
Sure.
So, Ritesh Bhaiya, what did you want to become when you were very young, and how did it change over the years as you grew from school to college to work?
That's a very interesting story. It always makes me smile when I think about it. So when I just finished my 10th, that was the time the movie Swadesh was launched. And I was inspired looking at Shah Rukh Khan and how he was a NASA scientist, and it inspired a lot of people. So that time I decided, okay, I'm going to join the IITs and I'm going to become an aeronautical engineer, and then I'm going to become a NASA scientist. But that's that. Then I realized, aeronautics in India doesn't have a great scope, and I kind of later decided, no, I want to stay in the country. And how it changed over the years, I wouldn't say I followed a plan or I had a plan. I think things just happened. When I got into IIT, I just sort of went with the flow. Took some things to liking, joined a good job with ITC, a very very popular FMCG company. Then IIM happened, again not planned. My roommates were studying for CAT. I thought, why shouldn't I? And that's how IIM happened. Then AppyCodes happened. So things changed quite a lot. Nothing went as per plan, but I think that's what life is, and I'm happy where I am today.
So great to hear your story. I think many will be inspired through this. So let's get to the first talking point, IITs. I think I was reading a stat somewhere, and this year around 14 lakh students have given and appeared for the IIT exam this year. And I'm surprised only 10,000 seats are filled for IITs. Ritesh Bhaiya, what is this entire thing FOMO about IITs? What happens inside an IIT? What are your top 3 takeaways inside an IIT?
FOMO nahi hai. Yeah, IIT, the entire experience is quite a journey. I think what makes IIT special is the journey itself. And I'm not just talking about the 4 or 5 years you spend studying in the college, but also the time you spend preparing for it. Let's take an example. Heera kaise banta hai? If you take carbon and put it under extreme pressure and extreme heat for a long duration of time, that's how diamonds are formed. And it's the same with IITs. The kind of pressure scenarios you deal with, the kind of stress, the kind of peer groups you have, and the extent for which you are doing that, it sharpens you. It sharpens you for the kind of life skills that you can't get from anywhere else. And I think I'm very proud of it. And that's what makes IIT special, and the entire journey is really worth it.
I think I can relate to it as an entrepreneur today. Going through that rigor in such a young age helps in the longer run.
Yeah, and not just rigor. So while I seem to be very proud of it, but IIT has also taught me a lot of humility, because when I was here in Siliguri, I mean, I topped the state and I felt like a star, right? But then the first day when you were in IIT in your batch, you were amongst the stars. I mean, probably everyone there was better than me in some way or the other. I mean, just for example, on my first class, I was sitting next to a guy, and I just asked him casually, "Ki tumhara rank kya tha? Like, what was your AIR rank?" And he said 2, and he was very humble and polite about it, and I was like, 2. I mean, in an entrance exam, that's impossible to crack, and that's when I realized, I mean, these guys are superbly talented, and that's when, and that's what it teaches you, a lot of humility, and to understand that there are people around you who are better in many ways than you are, and I think that's also a part of the experience.
I think the same happened with me also, so I can relate completely. So when I became All India Rank 3 in ISC exam, and I went to SRCC, they were both AIR 1 and 2, and they were so casual and normal about it. So that is what something special about all these schools.
Yeah.
But I think at such a young age, like at the age of 16, 17, 18, 14 lakh students appearing for it, do these people at such a young age know what they are signing up for? And like, do they know that only 10,000 or less than 1% of them will get admit to it? So is that hype real for everyone, or is it made for only a selected few students?
I never thought I was IIT material. I mean, I still give a lot of credit to good luck and probably the knack of circling the right box in an MCQ. So I mean, things happen, and but yeah, I mean, it. I think all said and done, IIT gives you a lot in terms of real life skills. So, जैसे कि, I mean, as engineers, you're taught to solve problems, and I think that's what I do even now. Take an incredibly complex problem that has no size or shape, and then try and mold it into a problem that is solvable. That's what IIT teaches you, and yeah, I think that's what really helps you in life skills.
डेफिनेटली. बट ऐसा कहते हैं कि आईआईटी होने से लाइफ सेट हो जाता है, इसीलिए ये पूरा रेस है. बट समवेयर आई थिंक the race is increasing now, but in this period of recession where jobs are lacking, I was reading a stat yesterday about IIT Delhi, and I think 22% of the students are unplaced. So, and that is over the last 4-5 years. So even after knowing such facts, मतलब क्या है ये पूरा, मतलब लोग को करना चाहिए नहीं करना चाहिए?
I think placements should not be a true representation of success of an IIT curriculum. I mean, fine, you didn't get placed, but that's just a campus placement, right? You're placed for life. I mean, that's what IIT does to you. Because the guarantee of IIT is not a good job. It's a good person. It's an analytical person. It's a well-rounded and sharp individual. So, like I said, I mean, finally, मुझे skills मिले, problem solving and taking very complex, ambiguous problems and उसको किसी भी scenario में solve करना. Not just in work, but I'm also talking about life. I mean, life throws a lot of problems at you, right? And I've got that from my engineering days to take complex problems and solve it when it comes to dealing with relationships or dealing with family or just anything that's life. So I think it's beyond placements. It's value for money, value for your time spent.
And what is the struggle inside an IIT? Matlab, we have seen multiple movies where IITs campuses are shown. What is the struggle? What is the fun around IIT? What happens inside the IIT?
Struggle is immense. It's burning the candle from both ends. So there is no two ways about it. You are amongst the best brains in the country with the best faculty. So you have to perform. And there's no shying away from it. It's a pressure situation. But I think people who get into it are sort of already tuned to respond and react that way. But at the same time, the best friends I have made, the best relationships I have gathered, the best experiences I've had, not just academics, I'm talking about sports, I'm talking about culturals, I'm talking about hanging out, I mean, trips with friends, events I've organized. It's all a great experience. And that's what makes it special. I mean, it's just a very good all-round experience. Those 4 years of my life, I mean, nothing can take away that from you.
Definitely. One thing you mentioned that people are tuned once they get into IITs, but we have seen कि how suicide rate बढ़ रही है हर साल. IITs के लोग suicide कर रहे हैं. Every day there is one news of someone jumping off from a building, not being able to cope up with the huge pressure. So how can someone deal, or how can people know that they should not take such pressure?
See, first of all, I mean, I'm not very well up to date with the facts, but I personally believe ki if anything of this that sort has happened, if these kind of incidents have increased in number, I think it's not so much related to IIT, but it's probably more related to the general trend of being more aware on social media, of being judged more than you were earlier. So I think the hype around peer pressures has increased in general, and that could be a probable cause of it. बट आई मीन आई एम नॉट हियर टू गिव एडवाइस कि नहीं चल रहना चाहिए एंड ये नहीं करना चाहिए बिकॉज फाइनली इट डिपेंड्स ऑन द इंडिविजुअल बट ओवर देयर ऐसा कोई एनवायरनमेंट नहीं है दैट यू हैव टू परफॉर्म और यू sort of have to succumb to anything. It's at the end of the day, you're around good people and you're around people who support you all the time. So, I mean, these are one-off incidents, and it's just the people around you and the peer pressure outside of IIT and on social media that possibly could relate to these incidents.
Makes sense. Chalo, what did you do after IIT? Like, where did you work? And I think you pursued after IITs, you did IIM. So, do you think for an MBA work experience is required? How many years is kind of a decent, or is it subjective to an individual? What is your take on that?
So to answer your first question, matlab, right after IIT, I got a job with ITC, which is a very well-known FMCG company based in India. And I worked there for 2 years. Uske baad I got the opportunity to join IIM Bangalore. Um, I think beyond a doubt, doing an MBA after a work experience is going to be way better. And I'm not trying to undermine any of the freshers who were in IIMs. I mean, those were people who I'm incredibly respectful of. They were really amazing. They had some amazing raw energy. But I think एक वर्क एक्स के बाद क्या होता है ना, आई मीन द लेक्चर्स आर द सेम, प्रोफेसर सेम है, तुमको सेम ट्रीटमेंट मिल रहा है वर्सेस अदर्स, बट आई थिंक द टेक अवे दैट यू गेट फ्रॉम अ क्लास after a work ex is very different, because then you can relate things you actually did for the last 2 or 3 or 4 years to what's being taught. And I think that makes it a whole lot different. So while the entire playing game stays the same, I think आप जिस तरीके से absorb करते हो, that changes a lot. And also I think one thing that I found was hugely different कि you know much more better what you want to do in life. I mean, when you enter an IIM after a work ex, आपको you know better than someone who's right out of an engineering college कि करना क्या है. So you can take the courses accordingly. You can choose what you want to do. You can choose what you want to spend time on. So I think there is a clear advantage in doing an IIM, or for that matter, any MBA after a work experience.
I think that is the reason why global B schools or even ISB today has a compulsory system of working for 2 years at least before getting an MBA, because the relativity factor is very, very strong, because what you're taught in class is something related to the industry. If you haven't worked in the industry, it's pretty not very, very helpful.
Yeah, I mean, MBA is about teaching life skills, right? And I think in jobs you experience life of a different kind. So when you are studying, then you can really put them to use. And I think all said and done, it's also a good break from I mean, studying 6 years in a stretch. It's a good break to take in the middle. So I'm all for WorkX and then MBAs.
So let's make it little fun. So Ritesh bhai has done MBA from IIM Bangalore. I have done from ISB. So we'll have a quick discussion on various metrics on which one is better. We are ready to agree and disagree. So
I disagree with you already.
let's pick the first set. So yeah, I think the most important, I think B schools in India especially are known for being placement agencies, and that's the first metric, placement. So what do you think, IIM versus ISB?
I think this would probably go an even in my opinion. I don't know how you stand. I think placements, both institutions offer the best placements in the country. I think placements in the top three IIMs ABC would stand at par or better when compared with ISBs. But I think then as you go to the other IIMs, you might see ISB offering better placements. But I think on an overall scale, I would rate them equal.
I think ISB, it's only been 20, 22 years, and the way it has come in at par with all the IIMs which have been over the last 100 years, it's something very, very amazing to see. And what do you also say about the type of companies like ISB particularly was originally known as a consulting B school. Now it has
Right.
product management and finance and marketing roles coming. So what is something within IIMs, like what are the kind of roles people look forward to? What are the kind of companies that come to campus?
So, I mean, in my placement season, the top sought after companies were finance, so banks, investment banks, and then there were a lot of consulting companies, the top threes, the top fours. Marketing was a big department in hiring, all the FMCG brands, the big names in the world, operations, strategy, all what HR, organization management. So I mean, I could see a wide range of roles for which companies hired from IIMs, and I'm sure that was
Yeah, definitely. Though it is majorly towards shifted towards consulting, people have that mindset already framed in mind. But I think it's changing,
okay.
and I think nowadays even startups are coming and hiring in great numbers from all these B schools. So that is
Great.
a new thing that is coming up.
I can't imagine how a startup could afford an ISB graduate like yourself, Aman. But
But I think they being funded heavily by big institutional investors, they have the capacity, and I think great minds make great institutions. Let's see. Let's talk about the next metric. Let's see what it is. Entrance exam. Yeah, that's a very, very big question that's there. So, CAT versus GMAT. I think many students have this problem which exam to give, because CAT gives you entry to IIM, whereas GMAT gives you entry to ISB or other global B schools. So, yeah, what is your take on that?
I
How
think
difficult?
here, now, I mean, here I think it's a very one-sided debate. Cats are way tougher to crack, and not for the faint-hearted. So, yeah,
I think nowadays people give both CAT and GMAT, but yeah, I think GMAT. I quite agree to this CAT. I don't know. It might be it is a very, very personal say on this, but yeah, CAT is a quite difficult exam as compared to GMAT. GMAT takes around average 3 to 4 months to prepare, whereas CAT, I think it is an individual decision, but typically 6 to 8 months something at a CAT.
right.
How many hours did you study during your preparation?
I used to study after work, so I was working, and I can say the last 2 or 3 months was pretty intense. But luckily, I didn't have to study a lot because, for good or bad, I mean, I started preparation much later. I realized much later I wanted to get into an IM. But I think my previous experiences helped me get a good percentile nonetheless. So I would say I studied an average amount for the CAT examination. I didn't do fabulously well, but I got in because of my work ex and previous experiences.
I cannot relate being in IIM Bangalore or not doing fabulously well. That's a very, very humane person to say, but yeah. But there's a question like, should people leave their job while pursuing this entrance examinations, CAT, GMAT? What is your take? Like, should they leave in the last 2 to 3 months or?
No, I think CAT is all about testing your life skills and application of logic to real world problems. So, and मुझे लगता है, I mean, if you're doing a job while studying for CAT, you have that security कि अगर ये नहीं हुआ, I can always fall back to my job. So I think when you're giving an exam, when you're not under pressure कि ये नहीं तो कुछ नहीं, and I think then you have a nothing to lose approach, and that makes your preparation relaxed, both while preparing and when giving your exam and when giving your interview. So, I mean, I don't know how it works for others, but personally, I felt being with a secure job while preparing helped me a lot in going out there with a very cool, nothing to lose mind, and that helped me possibly get into it.
I think nowadays what happens, suppose अगर admission होता नहीं है to the desired B schools, there is a career gap in your profile that also comes up sometimes, 3 to 4 months break, and at times it becomes very, very difficult to explain and justify in B school interviews or work experience. So that is also one of the reason why I feel, though that not might be the major reason, but yeah, sometimes people think of career gaps because every like there are multiple students who have been asking like कि career gap को कैसे justify करें in interviews.
To me personally, I think career gap is a myth of the past. No one really cares. Today, I mean, personally, when I'm interviewing someone, I do not care if you had a career gap of months or year or years. You had things to take care of, and that's perfectly fine. And I think not just me, I think companies over the world are now not really bothered about career gap. It was a big buzzword, taboo in our times, but 2024, I think career gap is very well explainable. You had things to take care of, and people don't really care too much about it.
Chalo, let's head to the next question. Next metric. Fees and ROI. Yeah. So the fees of ISB has increased like over the years. I think it started around 10 back in 2022 or 2002, and during my time it was around 38, 39, and now I've heard it's increased to 49. What's the case with IIMs?
I mean, I'm not following the trend. Those are scary numbers. I paid 15 lakhs for my curriculum at IIM Bangalore. I'm sure it's increased to way beyond, probably around
25, 30.
25 to 30s range. So, but in terms of ROI, I mean, if you calculate, I think ISB would give you a better ROI because regardless of that expensive money that you're paying, you still get 1 year to yourself, which you can earn through a job or through any other means. So I think in terms of and you get 1 year to start work earlier. You get 1 year to be ahead of the race, right? So in terms of ROI, I would give that to you, Aman. ISB is probably a better ROI.
And I think since most of them are experienced to land up at a job at a much higher level as kind of freshers sometimes. So
I would disagree. We've already talked about placement, so let's not go to
Yeah.
that again.
Let's go to the fourth metric. Let's see. Oh, it's diversity and network. I think ISB is way ahead than IIMs in this.
So you said diversity and network.
Network.
All right. Again, it depends. Yes, ISB does by its structural itself, it would have a more diverse set of individuals because it invites candidates from different spheres of work. I think particularly IIM Bangalore, for example, I can tell my personal experience. Bangalore focuses a lot on diversity, very good, healthy gender ratios, very good, healthy ratios from people across engineering, HR, arts, commerce kind of roles. So Bangalore itself has a very good diverse crowd. I think probably one of the other IIMs have been known to favor candidates, or not favor, but see candidates from more less diverse walks of life. So yeah, I mean, I would say on an average, ISB might see a more diversity.
Yeah, I remember one of the instances where I just landed up with a student and he was a professional cricketer playing in the IPL, and that just struck me. So I think we had sailors, we had lawyers, we had doctors. So I think quite diverse. And how do you think diversity helps in the longer run? Like, what is your take on that?
See, I mean, the problem in not having diversity is you start thinking in one direction. You have a very unidirectional view of things. You don't get perspective, and you don't tend to take things from a broad range of perspectives and then attack the problem. So when you have diversity, given a problem, there are four different voices with very different backgrounds and very different upbringing. So then you start to appreciate different schools of thought. Then you start appreciating different ways of looking at a problem. And I think that's what diversity is all about, right? That's why diversity is important in schools, colleges, work, in life.
I think, yeah, because solving case studies, I never thought we could have an approach from a sailor who had a completely different thought process to solving that particular case. And we had one unidirectional. So that is bang on. Let's see what is next. Alumni. Yeah. Alumni network. I think in today's time, your network is your net worth. So
Correct. Very true, Aman. I think both institutions, ISB and IIM, have a very strong network, and I think it's one of the biggest takeaways you get from these colleges, not just your placements or your curriculum. I think I would score IIMs better here purely because of the fact that when you're spending 2 years in college versus one, the number of people that you interact with is much higher than in a 1 year college. So I think I would rank IIMs better on that.
I would quite disagree to this. Yeah, I can understand that you might forge deeper and richer connections while being in a 2 year program. But I think the network of ISB is something which is very, very incredible and talked about. And that is one of the reasons why ISB is so successful, because ISB alumni have done something critical. And there is a very, very giving back attitude. Though we do not have a senior batch it's only a 1 year program. So, but still, every year alums come to campus to help in whatever way possible. So I think network. I would love to disagree to this. So
I mean, it's your podcast. I'll let you get to the conclusion. But I think you interact with 3 batches when you're in an IIM, and you interact with just your batch when you're in an ISB. So I'll let the audience decide.
let's see. We have the last metric. It's student life. Oh, I think that's the best metric to end.
Do you even want to compete on
Definitely,
that?
definitely.
No, I think you cannot compete an ISB with the student life of an IIM alumni, because 2 years of college. I mean, when you're doing an MBA, right? 1 year MBA, so many things to cover in a year. How much time will you get to make bonds and build friendships and do things outside of curriculum? So I think the more time you spend in college, you have better relationships, better peers, and better friends for life. I won't even accept an answer from you.
I think yours is just a number. I think we sleep at 5 in the morning and wake up for a 8 a.m. class. So amount of time we spend with ISBNs is like crazy. So I don't think so we can what we can do for student life is we can divide into segments. So we can divide into events, parties, and sports. So let's
Okay.
talk about each of them, and then
Fine. So let's start
see.
with events. I would say in ISBs, you would have a larger frequency of events packed in a year. In IIMs, you would have a more, I mean, it would be as good as ISBs, but yeah, I mean, probably they'll be more relaxed. But I think over 2 years, you get exposed to a large number of events. In the first year, there are events organized by seniors in which you participate. Then in the second year, you are organizing and you have your juniors who are assisting you. So it's a very rich experience in that regard.
Uh, with respect to events, so ISB I think has around 10 to 15 professional clubs and 10 to 15 social clubs. So I think that brings in nature, and every club organizes 2 to 3 mega events throughout the year. So that brings in a lot of events. So you have every day some event to attend to. So I think that way the campus is more happening. So student life from an event perspective goes to ISB, I think.
Like I said, this is your podcast. You can conclude. But I think the best talked about festivals in this country, if you've heard of Chaos and Unmad, these are organized by the IIMs. So I would not want to boast of them. I think people are well aware of the stature and kind of events organized in the IIMs.
Let's agree to disagree. Yeah. So moving on to sports.
Uh, So we have a good variety of sport events in IIMs. We have uh,
I am.
inter IIM events, which are very amazing. You get IIMs from all across the country getting together and participating, which I'm sure you will not get Aman in an ISB, which is a standalone university. Then we have alumni sport events, Anusmaran, where alumni compete with the ongoing batches. Those are very exciting. And then you have intra events within the college. So a lot of time for good events. I personally participated in a lot of sports at IIMs. I am a table tennis player, so I participated in intra IIMs, and those were very nice and very amazing to be a part of.
I think you have been a sports enthusiast throughout your life, so definitely. But yeah, I think even in ISB, one major event that is talked about is ISL, which is in a similar style to IPL, wherein we have auction for the current batch students. Alums come to campus to play on around 12 to 13 sports. So that is one of the most talked about events. And post placements, I think the entire 3 months everybody is focusing towards that ISB Super League and waiting for that. So yeah.
Sounds exciting. We didn't have any of that sort when I was there, but that sounds really exciting.
And I think let's talk about the lasting parties. I think people MBA people sleep late and like wake up early. Parties and after parties. So what is your take?
No, we had crazy parties at IIM campus. IMB is known a party campus, by the way. We had, I mean, our hostels were very amazing to live in. Our parties used to start at 12 and go on till the morning. We had a party area called L Square, which is an L, so that was called an L Square. And then we used to have wing parties. So I was in A-top, so we used to have A-top parties, A. Then we used to have a combined party with the girls. So girls were in B-top, so we used to call them ABP top parties and H mid and E mid, and there were special wings who were famous for throwing out crazy parties. And then we used to have a lot of uh, I mean, parties where clubs would go out, and Bangalore is a great place to party. I'm not sure so much about Hyderabad, but we had some crazy party scenes in the college.
I think Bangalore and Hyderabad both are not very well party places. The clubs and pubs they're closed by 12. But yeah, but ISB, I'll say one thing about ISB. So since they are six, I can talk about the Hyderabad campus. So there are 600 students and 365 days. So every day on an average there are two birthday parties and the entire campus is invited. So every day there is an event happening with respect to parties, and that is something talked about very much.
All right, that sounds exciting.
चलो अब IIT IIM तो we have boasted about IITs, IIMs, ISB. Now after IIM Bangalore, you came back to Siliguri, which is a very very unique thing and a different unconventional way of looking at things. So is that the best ROI for you, being a double gold medalist at the one of the best IIMs in the country, coming back to Siliguri, starting up from nothing? What is your take on that?
So ROI is the wrong metric to, I mean, evaluate life decisions on. I think my ROI of life has been humongous moving back to Siliguri. And it's a question I get asked a lot कि यार इतना पढ़ लिख के इधर ही आना था तो क्यों किया? And ठीक है, I relate with that question. I understand where it's coming from. And there's an answer I give to people, and the answer is I didn't want to be a part of that Delhi, Bombay, Bangalore rat race. I wanted to go back to Siliguri and have a relaxed, good quality of life. And this is the answer. I call it the politically correct answer. But the truer answer, which I know for myself, is I wanted to move back with my parents. I wanted to live with the security and relaxed mind that I am here with my parents when they need me. Because when that part of your life is sorted, then you can really perform better at your work and anything else. So this is the main reason moving back to Siliguri. And when I look back, there is not one thing I would change about my life decisions. I've been supremely gifted with a great home and a great family, and I'm very happy professionally doing what I am doing. So I think it's a great decision moving to Siliguri.
I think you have been very, very lucky and God's grace has been with you. But yeah, let's move ahead. So, what are the challenges when you came to Siliguri? I think it's been 10 years.
Yeah, exactly 10 years. I'll be attending my 10-year alumni meet this year. Uh, there have been quite a lot of challenges, but to name a few, I think Siliguri lacks this incredible ecosystem that other cities give you. So if you're starting up in Bangalore, right, there is so much peer group support, there is so much networking, there are events, there are meetups, everything is just next door, right? And there are co-working spaces, there are the best designers, the best developers, the best minds out there. So it makes a hell lot of a difference if you're starting up in Bangalore versus Siliguri. So that's a clear drawback. But I think at the same time, I've also seen a lot of advantages. I mean, if you start up from Siliguri, your costs are fundamentally lower. The kind of people you attract, they might not be the best talent of the country, but they are incredibly motivated people. They have a huge sense of ownership towards their work because they are lucky to get a good work experience in Siliguri. So they'll be truer to their work. They'll be more attached. There'll be lesser attrition, and I think in the end it all plays out well for you. So I think there are pros and cons, and I'm happy with both.
And how do you think Siliguri as a city has evolved over the years? Like, if somebody like me who is going to start up something in this arena. So, what do you think? How has Siliguri evolved? What kind of challenges has been overcome over the years? What is the ecosystem now looking like?
I think Siliguri has evolved tremendously over the last 10, 15 years. I mean, it is becoming a real city in the sense that you have everything moving to Siliguri, all the big brands, all the big institutions. Also, in terms of networking and people, I think a lot of uh, uh, people like you yourselves, Aman, and these generation of students who've studied from the best institutions and are now moving back to Siliguri to start a career, and they're living here. I think Siliguri is evolving tremendously. It's getting good attention from big companies, big brands, and great minds. So I am sure it's going to be a good powerhouse in this state and in this country in future for great startups and great businesses.
And I think both of us are agreeing to this, and we are looking forward to see businesses and companies thriving here in Siliguri, and Siliguri being a next talk of the town. So yeah, I think that's a good way to and good time to end this podcast. Thank you so much, viewers and friends, for watching this podcast. I'll just be giving a book to Ritesh Bhaiya. This is an Atomic Habits book by James Clear. I think you will love this. I don't know whether you have read this or not, but
I've heard a lot about it, and I'm looking forward to reading it. I've been told I should get back to doing some reading, so thank you very much.
thank you so much, guys.
Thank you, Aman, for inviting me. I hope you all had fun.